Welcome back. All right, it is time to look at the standings. We are roughly 2 months, a little over 2 months away from the playoffs. But keep in mind that there's games tonight, tomorrow, Sunday, and then there's about 2 weeks off for everybody. So, yeah, it's going to be quite the sprint to the finish when we come out of the Four Nations tournament. So I wanted to look at the standings today, where everybody's at. What we have on the board is all the overall standings. I got that straight from the NHL's official standings. And then some records over the last month, trying to look at some trends. So, leading the way in the Atlantic Division is Florida. 33-20-3 record for 69 points. They have a 616 points percentage. Over the last month, they're 9-5-1. Looking at hits and block shots, because it's kind of fun to look at hits and block shots, they're throwing 29.93 hits per 60 minutes, and they're blocking 12.46 shots per 60 minutes. So, not a lot of shot blocking, but a lot of hitting. And if they score first, they're 6-2 in games where they've scored first over the last month. So it is interesting. They've scored first in 8 out of the 15 games. They've won 9 out of the 15 games. They're definitely trending in the right direction. Toronto, it depends on the night with Toronto, doesn't it? 33-19-2 record, 68 points. They have won their last two in a row. 630 is their points percentage. So their points percentage is better than Florida's. So they could still end up winning the division, definitely. Also be only 1 point back and all that. But over the last month, they're 6-6. 19.97 hits per 60 minutes, which is lower than some of the other teams on this chart here. 15.64 block shots per 60 minutes. A lot of those are going to be Tanev, I would guess. And if they score first, stay tuned, because they're 3-3 over the last month when they score first, which is one of the towards the bottom records in the National Hockey League. You should be better than 500 when you score first. Tampa Bay, 29-20-4. They are third in the division, 62 points, 585 points percentage. Points percentage wise, they are ahead of the teams that are chasing them. So that's the thing. All they have to do is just win their games. They have full control. If they'd lost both games against Ottawa, if they'd split that series with Ottawa, we'd be having a different discussion. But Tampa Bay's in second place. They're looking all right. They're 8-5-2 over the last calendar month. 19.85 hits per 60 minutes, 12.59 block shots per 60 minutes. So, in terms of blocks and hits, they're not one of the most physical teams in the league. They are 5-2-1 if they score first, which, again, compared to a lot of the other teams on the board here, not necessarily a great points percentage, but that does mean that when they don't score first, they're 3-3-1. So, there's that side of it as well. Washington leading the way technically in the East, but again, I just go by how the standings are listed with the NHL site. Washington 36-11-7, 79 points, 731 points percentage, the best in the league. So yeah, they were on pace for that President's Trophy, whether Washington fans want it or not. But over the last month, they're also 10-1-3. Not overly physical in terms of hits, 17.17 hits per 60 minutes, but they're good when it comes to blocking shots, 16.47 block shots per 60 minutes. They're 8-0-1 when they score first. So pretty near automatic if they score first over the last month, meaning they're 2-1-2 when they don't score first, which also tells you they usually do score first. Carolina, 32-19-4 record for 68 points. So they're 11 points back of Washington. Washington's very likely to win the division. 618 points percentage for Carolina. They're 8-4-2 over the last month. They're not a very physical team. We know this. 16.4 hits per 60 minutes. 12.57 block shots per 60 minutes. So Carolina's, it's interesting because you know they have a lot of hard workers. They're just not an overly physical team. New Jersey, 30-20-6 record, 66 points. Their points percentage, 589. They are ahead of everybody that's chasing them in terms of points percentage. However, over the last month, they're 5-5-3. So they're trending in the wrong direction. Hits per 60 minutes, 21.11. Block shots per 60 minutes, 15.72. And if they score first, they're 4-1-1 over the last month. So the same record as Carolina when scoring first over the last month. So for New Jersey, if they don't score first, they're 1-4-2 over the last month. Score first, New Jersey. And it does feel like that was a problem they had last season, and now this season it's cropped its head out of wherever. So it's propped up again. Ottawa is the number one wild card, 29-22-4, 62 points, 564 points percentage. They are ahead of the teams chasing them in terms of points percentage, and even after the back-to-back losses against Tampa, They're 10-5-1 over the past month. They're 7-1 as well if they score first. Hits per 60 minutes, 22.02. Good number there. Block shots per 60 minutes, 15.22. Detroit is the number 2 wild card in the East, 28-21-5, 61 points, 565 points percentage. So 1 point above Ottawa in terms of points percentage, just barely. 10-3-1 over the last month, and they're 7-0 if they score first. So 3-3-1 when they don't. That's not awful. 17.67 are the hits per 60 minutes. 14.39 block shots per 60 minutes. So then we get into the ones below the playoff line, and you have Columbus, who have fallen off a bit, 26-21-8. Overall, 60 points, 545 points percentage, so that is beneath everybody they're chasing. 8-4-2 is the record over the last month, throwing 17.16 hits per 60 minutes, and blocking a lot of shots, 19.32 block shots per 60 minutes. However, they're only 5-3-1 when they score first. So they scored first in 9 out of their 14 games, but they won 5 out of those 9. So that's definitely something Columbus needs to work on. That's that whole not quite playing the full 60 minutes or not being able to hold the lead. That's where that comes in, right? Boston, 27-23-6 overall, 60 points for them as well, 536 points percentage. One thing working against Boston, they've played more games than teams they're chasing. 7-5-1 record over the last month. They're throwing hits, 23.7 hits per 60 minutes, 16.63 block shots per 60 minutes. They're 6-2 when they score first over the last month. So Boston definitely has been, up and down, but they're trending out of the playoffs, not into, because Detroit and Ottawa have been red hot. The New York Islanders have been red hot as well. 25-21-7 overall. They have 57 points, 538 points percentage. However, they are 10-3 over the last month. So really strong numbers from the Islanders over the last month. A lot of hits, 26.37 hits per 60 minutes. Pretty good at blocking shots too. 18.32 block shots per 60 minutes played. And they're 5-1 when they score first. So the Islanders, that tells you they're confident. They're playing well. They could be one to keep an eye on. They're only 4 points out of a playoff spot currently. The New York Rangers, 26-23-4, 56 points, 528 points percentage. They're 8-3-2 over the last month, so they've been playing well. And 4-0-1 if they score first. 22.02 hits per 60 minutes, 16.52 block shots per 60 minutes. So the New York Rangers, they're still in the hunt. It is remarkable. There are going to be at least 2, I would say maybe 3 teams that we look back on this season and say, they were pretty good. It's a shame they didn't make the playoffs. The Rangers could be one. Who knows? One of the teams above the line could end up being one of them. Montreal has faded. 25-24-5 record, 55 points, 509 points percentage, 6-6-2 over the last month. And if they score first, they're 0-3-1. Odd record right there. Scoring first is not good for Montreal, apparently. Which, young team, it all checks out there. 22.63 hits per 60 minutes, 17.01 block shots per 60 minutes. So they're physical, but they're young, and you're going to get mistakes, and later on in the season, wins are harder to come by. Pittsburgh, 22-24-9 record, 53 points. So they're 8 points out of the playoffs, 482 points percentage. They're 5-7-1 over the last month. 21.6 is the hits per 60 minutes for them, 14.3 block shots per 60 minutes. If they score first, they have a good record. They're 3-1, but that means they've only scored first 4 times in 13 games over the last calendar month. The math doesn't math there. Philadelphia, 23-28-8 is, or 23-28-7, I should say, is their record for 53 points. 473. You know what? I think that's supposed to be a 26, not a 28. One sec. Yep. 23-26-7. 53 points. 473 points percentage. 6-7-2 record over the last month. And Philadelphia, of course, trading Farabee and Frost. Very likely a sign this team's selling off now. 20.53 hits per 60 minutes. 18.1 block shots per 60 minutes. They're 3-3-2 when they score first. It is something I've noticed with Philadelphia that when they score first, they're probably not going to win. But when they don't score first, they're 3-4 over the last month. So Philadelphia games are actually unpredictable. Doesn't matter who scores first. They could win when they don't, and they could lose when they do. Buffalo, 22-26-5 record overall, 49 points, 462 points percentage. So For anybody who might have hope left for Buffalo, maybe mute this for a bit. But yeah, they're 12 points back of a playoff spot. They're not going to make it. They're 7-5 over the last month. So this is what I've been talking about, where they win enough games that if you want to have hope that, hey, this could get better if, they give you that hope. 21.16 hits per 60 minutes. It surprised me a little bit that they're actually not bad when it comes to the hitting side of things, but they did revamp their roster a bit coming into this season. Only 13.75 block shots per 60. They've scored first 10 out of 12 games over the last month, but they're only 6-4 in those games. So that's a problem for them. And yeah, we'll see how things go the rest of the way for them. Let me just go ahead and put in a timestamp because there's going to be people who just want to go to the West. And so I'll give them the chance to do that just with the timestamp. So we go out West, and Winnipeg leading the way, 38-14-3 record for 79 points. They're tied in points with Washington, but they have a 718 points percentage. That tells you that Washington has games in hand on the Winnipeg Jets. Winnipeg over the last month's been excellent. 10-2-1. 19.76 hits per 60 minutes. 16.85 block shots per 60 minutes over that time. They're 7-0 when they score first. So they're 3-2-1 when they don't, but they're 7-0 when they score first. So those are good numbers. Dallas 34-18-1 record, 69 points. So I mentioned the 11-point lead that Washington has. Yeah, Winnipeg has a 10-point lead. They're not losing the division. 651 is the points percentage for Dallas. 9-5 record over the last month. 17.32 are the block shots per 60. 17.32 are the hits per 60. Apologies. 15.9 are the block shots per 60. They're 4-3 when they score first. It's a bit maddening with Dallas that they're 5-2 when they don't score first, and they're 4-3 when they do. So, yeah, just stay tuned. Like Philadelphia, they score first, they might win. They might not. The other team scored first, they might win. They might not. The Minnesota Wild. 32-19-4 record, 68 points, 618 points percentage, so the same as Carolina, but they get there differently. Minnesota 6-8 over the last month, 17.71 hits per 60 minutes, 16 block shots per 60 even for them. They're 6-3 when they score first, meaning they're 0-5 when they don't score first over the last month, which, considering the amount of injuries and slow starts, are going to happen. So, yeah. Edmonton. 34-16-4 record for Edmonton, 72 points, 667 points percentage, which technically is the lowest amongst division leaders in the National Hockey League, although they would be first, or they would be second in any other division as well. So it's not like the Pacific Softball or anything. The Oilers, which is usually what people say about it, right? The Oilers 9-4-1 record over the last month. They're not a physical team, 13.71 hits per 60 minutes. Block shots, 13.07 block shots per 60 minutes. They're 4-1-1 when they score first. So pretty automatic when they score first. And when they don't score first, they're 5-3 over the last month. So again, if they get scored upon, it does not mean their game is done. Vegas, 32-17-6 record, 70 points, 636 points percentage. So they've been having their struggles. Their points percentage lower than Edmonton's. They're 2 points behind Edmonton. 4-8-3 record over the last month. 18.6 hits per 60 minutes. This team is very different. There was a time where Vegas was at the very least top 2 in hits in the NHL. 13.9 block shots per 60 minutes. If they score first, doesn't mean they're going to win. 3-5-2 record when they score first. So they've scored first in 10 out of the 15 games they've played over the last month, and they've won 3 of them. That's just remarkable. Those are not Vegas-like numbers. The LA Kings, 28-17-6 record, 62 points, 608 points percentage, 5-7-1 over the last month, so their numbers have definitely not been great. 19.34 hits per 60 minutes, 14.52 block shots per 60 minutes. If they score first, not automatic, 3-2 when they score first over the last month, but they have a bit of a run of games here at home, so we'll see if those numbers turn around. In the first wildcard spots, Colorado. 32-22-2 record, 66 points for a 589 points percentage. 7-7-1 record over the last month. Those are not Colorado-like numbers. They've been dealing with injuries, as some other teams are as well, of course. But, yeah, and that's going to be part of what's going on here. 17.97 hits per 60 minutes. 12.8 are the block shots per 60 minutes. They're 5-3-1 when they score first. So they're above 500 when they score first, but it means that in the 9 games that they've scored first, they've won 5 of them. Vancouver, 28-15, or 28. Canuck fan speaking, 25-18-11 record, 61 points, 565 points percentage. It is fascinating to me that the percentage is the same between Detroit and Vancouver, the number 2 wildcards. And then the teams chasing them, almost identical in terms of points percentage. I think the West and the East are pretty equally good, but I'm not going to say that out loud in a video because people will be like, "Oh, the East is definitely better." Anyways, Vancouver 7-6-2 over the last month, so that's a positive record. 22.37 hits per 60 minutes, although all of those are Kiefer Sherwood. 13.99 block shots per 60 minutes. If they score first, Vancouver has an excellent record, 7-0-1 in the last month. So score first, because if they don't, they're 0-6-1. So they're not great at the comebacks. Right below the playoff line, Calgary, 26-21-7 record, 59 points. 546 is their points percentage, so only 1 percentage point difference from Columbus's 545. 7-7 is the record for Calgary over the last month. 22.21 hits per 60 minutes. 15.57 block shots per 60 minutes. If they score first, they're much better than if they don't. They're 5-2 when they score first, 2-5 when they get scored on first. Utah, 23-22-9 record, 55 points, a 509 points percentage overall. Trying to get back into the playoff hunt, so 6 points back of Vancouver. 6-7-2 record over the last month. 19.81 hits per game, well, hits per 60 minutes during that time. 15.16 block shots per 60 minutes as well. If they score first, that doesn't mean a lot. 2-3-2 record for Utah when they score first, meaning that when they don't, they're 4-4. So they have a better points percentage when they get scored on first than when they score first. St. Louis, 24-26-5 record, 53 points, 482 points percentage, so the same as Pittsburgh's over here. 5-7-1 record over the last month, also the same as Pittsburgh's, but the hits and block shots are different. 26.59 hits per 60 minutes for Pittsburgh, 13 or for St. Louis. See, I knew it. Comparing them to Pittsburgh, I'm going to say Pittsburgh. 13.26 block shots per 60 minutes for the Blues. And when they score first, they're 5-2. So when they don't, they're 0-5-1. Which brings us to Anaheim. Anaheim's 23-24-6 overall. They have 52 points this season. Points percentage of 491 over the last month. They're 6-6-1. So Anaheim's making progress. Hits, 23.41 hits per 60 minutes. So they're young, but they're not lacking in the physical part of the game. Having Trouba and Gudas will definitely help with that, of course. 17.54 block shots per 60 minutes. They're 5-2-1 when they score first. So Anaheim's good at protecting the lead. Not great, but good at protecting the lead. Seattle, 23-29-4 record overall, 50 points, 446 points percentage. So it really has been a rough year for them. They find themselves 11 points back of a playoff spot now. 6-8-1 record for Seattle over the last month. 20.09 hits per 60 minutes over that time. 15.11 block shots over that time as well. 4-2 record, though, when they score first, meaning they're 2-6-1 when they don't score first. So Seattle getting that first goal is important. Nashville, 18-27-7 record, 43 points, a 413 points percentage for them. 5-6 record over the last month. So Nashville's just been disappointing from every angle you can look at it here. 22.19 hits per 60 minutes. 11.73 block shots per 60. I never thought I'd see the day a Nashville team didn't block a lot of shots. They're 3-1 when they score first this past month, meaning they are 2-5 when they don't. Chicago, 16-31-6 record for them overall, 38 points, 358 points percentage, 3-6-4 record over the last month. 21.46 hits per 60 minutes, 14.68 block shots per 60. If Chicago scores first, they lose. They're 0-2-1 when they score first, meaning they're 3-4-3 when they don't. It's weird, and I've noticed that where Chicago scores first, and I'm like, oh, they're going to lose now, aren't they? And then you have San Jose. They're no guarantee if they score first either. 15-34-7 record, so 37 points, 330 points percentage, meaning that it's between Chicago and San Jose for the best odds for the draft lottery. Everybody will be happy with that if Chicago wins another draft lottery. 2-10-1 record over the last month for San Jose. They've been abysmal. 20.6 hits per 60 minutes, 18.14 block shots per 60 minutes, and if they score first, they're 2-3. So when they don't score first, They're 0-7-1 over the last month. They almost got that win over Vancouver last night, and that they got it to overtime, but they lost that one in overtime. So there you go. Over the last month, we've seen some movement, but I think we're starting to see the playoff picture really get into focus, and it will be interesting to see which teams add at the deadline. I would think if they're above the line here, they probably almost all are going to be trying to do something. So for those teams that are sellers, and there's not very many teams right now that I would qualify as sellers, probably the bottom three here, and maybe Seattle would be in that as well. I guess you could include Anaheim. So we'd have what, 8 sellers? It might be a bit of a soft sell from Montreal, which is not, to bring up the song Tainted Love or anything. But the Marilyn Manson version's good too, but the soft sell was the original. But anyways, yeah, Montreal I don't think is going to do anything crazy. And I think for St. Louis, I don't think they've given up on the hunt. All the rumors out there seem to be that St. Louis might be looking to add and change things up. And we'll see how everything goes. But there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I should mention this before we go too. So if the playoffs started today, we'd have Washington against Detroit. We'd have Florida against Ottawa. Toronto and Tampa, Carolina and New Jersey. We haven't seen Toronto and Tampa in 2 years. And then out west, we'd have Winnipeg against Vancouver. I don't like Vancouver's chances there. The Oilers against Colorado. Yes, please. McKinnon and McDavid in the first round. Dallas and Minnesota. I feel bad for Minnesota at this point because I don't think Minnesota wins that round if that takes place. And then Vegas and LA, which would be a little different than what we've seen in the first round for LA for quite some time. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again